Yo, what is going on? It's your boy Anubis the Gamer Archer here with a brand new video for you guys. Today we're going to do a review for Elden Ring. Now, before we get into the review, I always like to give you guys my background with the video game franchise, video game series, before we go into the review, because I feel like you should know what experience someone who's giving you information or a review, experience someone has with that franchise. Are you new to From Software games, or are you a From Software veteran? Things like that. And I do this for all my reviews. Let you guys know who it is you're dealing with, so you can, I don't want to say take validate my opinion, but at least know where it's coming from, and not that it's just someone who's jumping on a bandwagon and feeding information in that way. Anyways, let's get into the review of Elden Ring. Elden Ring is another game from the great developers of From Software, another game following that Souls formula that made games like Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, and Sekiro key franchises in modern gaming. Combining gameplay with cryptic but intriguing lore, cryptic and intriguing storytelling with challenging but rewarding combat encounters. What sets Elden Ring from its predecessors, From Software worked with a famed author, George R.R. Martin, mostly known for his book series A Song of Fire and Ice, which is what the TV series Game of Thrones is based off of. But plenty of other games and media was also inspired in some way by Martin's books, including one of my favorite games of all time, Dragon Age. Within Elden Ring, you can definitely see and sense and feel Martin's touch on the game's universe, on the game's franchise. He helped write the story, and him working with From Software is definitely a match made in heaven. There's actually a really good sword in a game that has ice and fire abilities, paying homage to the book series titles. So what is Elden Ring? Well, briefly, the world the game takes place in, known as the land between, fell into ruin due to the shattering of the Elden Ring, causing a massive war breakout between various demigods of the realm. The two big main bosses, or big main partakers in this big war, being Radahn and Melnia, two of the most visually noticeable characters in the game's trailers. By the way, your character is one of the Tarnished, and you are tasked with ending the war and becoming the Elden Lord. Those two characters who I mentioned before, Radahn and Melnia, and the other numerous bosses throughout the game, they're the obstacles your character faces, as well as others who are also vying for the throne themselves. It's not just you who want to become Elden Lord, and there's in between those bosses, between the others who want the throne, there's also the minions who work for people. So you got your work cut out for you when it comes to playing this game, and that race to become the Elden Lord. Elden Ring is a vastly beautiful world, an astonishing video game. It's designed from its visuals to its combat to its exploration, and the new to Souls mount system. Improved jumping are massive changes and improvements to the formula of the From Software style for these kind of games. Rather you are facing one of the 80 or so bosses, exploring caves, tunnels, catacombs, swamps, forests. There's a lot of variety in this game when it comes to locale. Elden Ring is a deep game filled with content and replay value. I have 5 characters right now, so you can get an idea on the replay value, and I do plan on doing New Game Plus with all those characters. There's a unique variety in Elden Ring that you won't get in previous From Software games. This game is very addicting, fun, and from a storytelling standpoint, very interesting. I myself wanted to know what happens next after every conversation I have with NPC. After every major boss encounter, I want to hear what NPCs say next. I want to see if there's any change to the world on after what I did there. For example, when I beat a boss named Ricard, my first thought process was to talk to everyone inside this location to see what their thought process was after I beat that boss fight, and everyone reacted differently to me after that. So I have some points about the game I want to talk about, both negative and positive, so let's get into that. All right, so here's my negative opinions, or just some things about Elden Ring that I'm going to nitpick, or that I feel as flaws of the game. This is not a masterpiece. It's not the best Souls-like game. It's not the best game I've ever played. It has its flaws, like any other video game, and it's just my opinion. You can disagree all you want. If you want to give your opinion on Elden Ring, you can put it in the comments below, or make your own video. This is my video. This is dictatorship, so what I say goes when it comes to my opinion. Anyways, The rehash bosses. Elden Ring flexes having, about 80 bosses in the game. Then yes, you face some of the same bosses 3 times, sometimes 4 times. This is a negative for you because it devalues the original boss fights. Imagine after you beat Nameless King or the Abyss Watchers, you face them 2 more times. Or imagine after you face Gwen, you face him another 2 or 3 times. Imagine you face Ornstein and Smo 4 more times. It will get old to you and it'll devalue that amazingness you feel of going against them the first time. Those months wouldn't stick with you. Even Margit, the first main story boss, reappears as many boss later. Though 80 sounds like a cool number of bosses, I would rather have less than that if it's memorable, good boss fights. And I know this is gonna be like one of the things people are like, well, it's not that big of a deal for you, but this is my opinion. This is what this video is. It's an opinion video. It's a review. Reviews are an opinion. And for me, it was getting annoying facing the same bosses over and over again. And like, every time I encounter a boss who I've already faced 2 or 3 times before, I'm just like, oh my god, here we go. Like, it just devalues every encounter that you had before because you're just redoing it. The boss fights, though, speaking of the bosses, some of those 80s aren't even worth mentioning. Bosses you can 2-shot, bosses that offer you no danger unless you stood there and let them hit you. There was a few encounters with bosses that I beat in under 25 seconds. That's not a joke or an exaggeration. There's literally bosses who I beaten in under 25 seconds, and here's a clip of one of those boss fights I beat in under 25 seconds. Bosses might name and have complaints about. The 2 gargoyles that spit poison is super unnecessary. It's a 2v1 boss fight against 2 giant gargoyles. Having them also spit poison is overkill and comes off as fake difficulty or an influx of difficulty to make it seem like it's harder than it actually is. Poison isn't too big of a deal, but it just seems like it's unnecessary that they spit poison in a 2v1 gang fight. Radahn is a cool boss encounter. His lore is cool. His story is also super good. The idea of the encounter is great, especially through the Ronnie quest line. However, this encounter is one of the most annoying in all FromSoft's games. He's like a crackhead. His speeding off can happen so often that it becomes annoying, not hard. Sometimes when he does it so often, you don't even get to hit him. He speeds off, you rush to go get a hit in before you swing, he speeds off again. One hit rock slings are problematic. They do not need to be, one hit. It's not necessary. It doesn't matter how high your health is, things like how high level you are. If you get hit by his rock sling attack, you will just get 1 hit. And it's very inconsistent. A lot of the damage that Radahn does is super inconsistent. Inconsistent damage from the gravity arrow shot needs to be more consistent. I don't care if it's 1 hit or 2 hits, 3 hits. It needs to be consistent. Sometimes it would do about 30% damage to you, and sometimes it would just one-shot you. That's not a consistent, rate. The thing about Radahn is he goes against what we accept about FromSoft's boss fights. Having to learn the mechanics, learn the move sets, etc., etc., etc. His inconsistent behavior throws that idea out the window of having to learn mechanics, learn moves, move sets, learn the boss, because he's not consistent. Just tone him down a little bit and he wouldn't be as much of an irritation to deal with, because again, he's like a little crackhead who just zooms around the map, which is already too big by itself, and they want you to do it mounted sometimes, but the fact that when you get out of your horse, you get stunned, so it's like an easy kill for the boss if your horse does fall in those encounters. Also, for the NPC summons for the Ronnie quest line, they should just stay up. Having to resummon them is tedious. You could just say don't use them at all, but they're part of the quest line. It makes it a little interesting. It makes it even more of a unique boss experience. But again, having to keep spawning them in is tedious and annoying, and you don't really want to do it. So just make it to where that they just stay up. Like they can do less damage. Like that can be a decent trade that the NPCs that come in during that quest line, they do less damage to Radahn, on the trade-off being that you don't have to keep resummoning them. And one of the most annoying things about all Souls games is how much of basically a secondary enemy, by enemy boss enemy, the camera is in these games. It's more problematic in Elden Ring, as a number of the bosses uses jumping or dive attacks, which throws your camera into a big spasm. This is a small complaint, but in other Souls games you kind of get used to it and it's not as big of a deal. But in this game, with how the enemies react, how the enemies play, your camera jerking around and forcefully auto locking or auto aiming or things like that is just terrible. Speaking of auto locking, very often in this game you will be locked onto an enemy, you're trying to fight them, and then out of nowhere it will switch to somebody else, and it's like you turned off auto locking, you turned off auto switching, the only thing that you have on is manual auto lock. and it just gets annoying. You're in the middle of a fight with a boss, and there's like, it's an open world boss, and there's like a goat goes by or a random soldier goes by, and your camera just jerks to that person and locks onto them. It's like, yo, can you not do that, game? You need to work on, you know, how the camera locking works in the game. You know, tone it to a point to where, you know, people can just make it to where you only lock on to what I lock onto, and you don't lock off until I hit the button to lock off. That's how manual locking should work. I'm locked on when I hit the button to lock on. I lock off when I hit the button to lock off, or if I get too far from the enemy to where the lock on wears off. This next negative is a minor one. That's what the camera complaint. That was a minor complaint. It's also a minor complaint. But the inconsistencies of fall damage when jumping with the mount turn is super annoying. Sometimes you drop from a high level and nothing happens. Maybe you lose a little bit of health, or, you know, maybe your mount kind of like stuns a little bit before you get able to walk, and that's about it. And sometimes you drop from the short distances and auto die. Not only that, sometimes if you're trying to like parkour or, you know, jump from like small gaps to another location, the game will automatically not allow you to do double jump or turn, just so you can fall down and then die. So those are the negatives of Elden Ring. Let's get into the positives. There won't be as many positives to mention in terms of like this portion of the video, because, you know, there's so much good about the games where I do want to make sure I get those negatives in more so than, you know, pick through every like nook and cranny of Elden Ring for positives. Also, those positives outweigh the negatives. Like, even if they're fewer, they will outweigh them. What those things do, what they achieve, and how good those positives are outweighs any negativity that can be put towards the game. Visually, the game is just outright stunning. It is easily the most visually astonishing FromSoftware game. A lot of variety in its look, from the usual dark atmosphere you're used to with these style of games, and then, you know, lush, colorful forests in other areas, you know, snowy tundras in some other areas, you know, the different variety of, you know, the multiple swamps in the game that don't look anything alike but are still swamps to a degree. Going to some locations in the game like Lindell, I think how you pronounce it, reminded me of the first time we entered the Ring City in Dark Souls 3's Ring City DLC. Seeing all those buildings, houses that are not even destroyed, still complete. But in Elden Ring, that city is even more clean, so it doesn't look like an empty, dead city, at least at first glance. Often you will stop and look at things in the game and go, wow, hell, Renala's boss room is astonishing during her second phase. Like, I'm not going to spoil what happens in that fight and things like that. I'm not going to spoil the second phase for you in general. There won't be a clip of her fight at all in this video. And it's a very amazing boss arena just to look at. It's a visually astonishing boss arena, which you don't really get a lot of that in these kind of games. You don't really get like these atmosphere changes during boss fights. You're fighting in the area, you fight them in, and that's it. Elden Ring has the most dynamic combat of any like FromSoftware game. It seems like everything is viable, whether you are maining magic, faith, hammers, katanas, whips, bows, etc, etc, etc. It's all viable, and made even more viable with talismans that cater to each of those weapons. It's all very smart. And the jumping that I feel like it's inspired by Sekiro's combat, it's like FromSoftware has always designed their games to allow this level of jumping and combat to be entwined into one game from the jump. The NPCs in Elden Ring seems like it has more NPCs than any other Souls game. That's amazing, because I love interacting with NPCs. Again, my favorite RPG of all time is Mass Effect franchise. I enjoy connecting with NPCs and seeing how they change and grow over time. In Elden Ring, a lot of NPCs you meet at the beginning of the game can become your enemies towards the end of the game, or they themselves change up, or they themselves also, their personalities change, or their opinion of you change, whether it's positive or negative. Some of the NPCs you can grow attachments to, you know, the ones with full fleshed out quest lines even more so, and the good voice acting and character design also increases the attachment and lasting effects an NPC can have on your character and you. This game nails NPCs in like all the best ways. So the last positive I want to talk about from Elden Ring is the most obvious one. It's the one most people will be drawn towards, and that's the open world. This is easily a positive point to make. The open world in the Elden Ring is insane. I would only compare it to The Witcher 3 and Skyrim when it comes to the scope and the way that it kind of works. But the way it separates itself from those two games is that even the open world aspects of the game is very FromSoftware, as it doesn't hold your hand as other games open world would. You see the traces from Lost Grace and the Grace Tree. The Grace trace on the map gives you an idea of where to go, but that's about it. That's kind of like where the hand holding ends. For the most part, you yourself have to figure out where to go, next. You know, the game doesn't tell you go this way, go that way, unless you look at those traces and you understand that's how the trace works. They don't even tell you, like I think they tell you, but it's easy to like ignore that or and just assume there is no sense of direction. And I kind of like love the fact that there is no sense of direction. I kind of love the fact that this game doesn't kind of like hold your hand with the open world aspects of it. I think it gives the open world a very real life style and vibe. If you were a person in the medieval times or the Renaissance era or any of those ancient time periods, you wouldn't just automatically know where to go. You would get directions from other people throughout the lands and follow their direction. Elden Ring does that. There are NPCs who give you clear directions of where to go. It's really nice and cool. Like if you talk to the finger chicks, I don't know what they're called, but like if you talk to them, they'll ask to see your hands and they'll tell you where to go. They tell you, you know, if you head south and turn west and you see this, it'll describe a structure to you. They're just basically telling you where to go. If you talk to NPCs who give you a quest line, they will like, I need you to go deal with this keep that's been giving me a hard time, or and this is happening. You just head south into the Weep Peninsula. You'll see this structure, you know, then come right back and I'll give you a reward. Or hey, my father is stuck inside this castle and I need you to go deliver to him this letter, and they'll describe to you where this castle is and you'll see it. This game gives you an idea of where to go that way by the NPCs telling you, you know, in a form of actually for directions where to go in the game. And I feel like that's just an amazing way for an open world to work, in a more realistic way for open world to work. And the entirety of Elden Ring's open world is perfection. Overall, I would say Elden Ring is the third best Souls game from Software. It's a tongue twister. I'd rank Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3 ahead of it, with Dark Souls 3 to me being the best, you know, overall From Software game. But maybe over time this will change with full replay throughs and better understanding of the lore. Dark Souls 1 and 3 have the advantage of time. By that I mean there's been so many lore videos from guys like VaatiVidya and Ashen Hollow, and so many, and there's been so many replay throughs. I have a new game plus, you know, 7 characters in Dark Souls 3, including 5 more characters in Dark Souls 3. I have 4 playthroughs in Dark Souls 1, including 3 new game plus playthroughs. So I've had so much time in those games to experience the story, experience the lore, to where it's just been able to sit longer. Whereas Elden Ring is still fresh, it hasn't set yet, and it hasn't been like all those videos from VaatiVidya to, you know, basically make the cryptic story easy to palate when it comes to understanding the lore. I wouldn't call Elden Ring the masterpiece everyone else is calling it. I think most of that is just recency bias. You know, the hype was and popularity with the game, and people wanted to be part of a crowd. So agreeing to just say this is an amazing game or it's a masterpiece, it's perfection, is just what everyone's doing because, you know, they want to fit in, they want to be part of a crowd. And you know how modern social people are. No, it is indeed an amazing game though. It's just not perfection. No, it's a wonderful work of art, maybe a top 15 RPG of all time, but not top 5. It's phenomenal on its own though. It doesn't need to be compared to other games. By itself, Elden Ring is phenomenal. I want to give Elden Ring a 9 out of 10. The negatives I mentioned just prevents it from being a 10 experience. You know, keeps it from being that masterpiece other people call it, but it is still, regardless of those negatives, an amazing game. But with all that said, that's it for this review. Thank you all for watching. I enjoyed. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Y'all be safe. Be one another. Follow me on Twitch. Link to me screenshots below. So on your screen right now. We stream from Monday through Thursday, 3 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Eastern. And on Fridays, for those who are wanting to break from video games, I upload archery videos every single Friday. So follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitch. Hit the bell icon if you want to get notified when I upload. Hit the like button. All these things help the channel grow. Leave a comment as well. YouTube algorithm likes those 3 things: like button, comments, and subscribing. If you're doing those 3 things, you're helping your boy grow, helping get more views, things like that. Help the smaller channels get to where they want to get to. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Y'all be safe. I'm out. I'm being your boy Anubis. Deuces.